Is it, everyone? We've reached the final lesson where we'll be having discussion board posts this week. After this point in the term, you're going to focus solely on writing that final project. So without any further ado, let's launch ourselves into this week's topic. We're going to be talking about America's role in the world. As you've probably noticed, the United States is very involved in world affairs. There are some who believe that we should be a little less involved. There are others who believe that we should be more so involved. Why does the United States get involved in affairs around the world? Some would say, well, for protection, defending borders. Others say, well, for economic reasons. Others say to spread democracy. There's lots of different reasons. In the United States' earliest days, uh, presidents like George Washington cautioned the young nation not to get involved in external affairs in the wider world. And that makes sense when we're thinking about the time Washington lived in. The United States was a fledgling nation. It needed to get its finances in order, and quite frankly, it didn't really have an army or navy that could at that time challenge the world's leaders. As time went on, though, we began to see the United States become more involved in affairs around the world. You begin to see a little bit more isolationist policies uh, just before and just after World War I, although certainly we were very involved in world affairs during World War I, and we were very involved in world affairs during World War II as well. In fact, it's after World War II that you really see the emergence of the United States as a very global presence. And the reason for that will be the Cold War, pitting the United States against the USSR. And this is relevant to our talks today. For example, on Sunday, it was the 25th anniversary of the fall of the Berlin Wall. At the same time, however, we're hearing talks once again that we might be entering a new Cold War era. What does that mean for us? What does that mean about our policy? Should we continue to become more involved in world affairs, or should we pull back to an extent? Let's talk about this week's objectives. The United States' involvement in world affairs was particularly heavy following World War II and during the Cold War. In recent years, however, there has been a public debate concerning the U.S.'s continued presence in global affairs. After completing this unit, you should be able to identify the events and historical trends that have impacted the public support of U.S. prominence in world affairs, understand why those who support a strong U.S. presence around the world hold their opinion, and understand why those who wish for the U.S. to reduce its roles in world affairs hold their opinions. So let's look at the reading assignment for this week. You'll see that there are a number of sources for you to read, some that place you historically within the topic, since, for example, the first source comes courtesy of the Library of Congress, and this is a primary source, History of American Involvement in World Affairs. The next four articles that you'll see are grounded in modern times and touch on whether or not the United States should be as involved as it is in world affairs. And of course, I'm certain you've heard debates about this very recently, whether it be the United States' relationship with Russia, whether it be U.S. involvement in the turmoil that's in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia and Israel, Palestine, in Iraq and Afghanistan. These articles will touch on all of those elements, and then you might even hear a little bit about what the U.S.'s role should be in handling the worldwide Ebola problem that's currently facing us. So, take a look through those readings, and after you do that, you will move on to the week's discussion board. As always, there are 3 questions for you to explore. First, what events and historical trends have impacted the public support of U.S. prominence in world affairs? Is your first question to consider. The second question you might want to consider is this. Explain the positions of those who support a strong U.S. presence around the world and those who wish for the U.S. to reduce its roles in world affairs. Why does each side hold the opinion that it holds? Is there a middle ground that can be met between these two opinions? And the third point, conduct an internet search on news articles related to U.S. involvement in Afghanistan, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, or Israel. Link and reference to at least 2 articles that hold opposite opinions on the U.S.'s involvement in those locations. Why does each side hold the opinion that it holds? Is there a middle ground that can be met between these two opinions? As always, I don't feel like I have to warn you all this week about, you know, maintaining your own private opinions on the discussion board. You all have been doing a fantastic job of talking to one another courteously on the boards, and I really appreciate that about this particular class. I'd really like to praise you all for that. And the final point, and please do not forget to do this, remember that last point is that you do have a journal to complete. This is the final journal of the term. You'll be discussing your thoughts on America's role in world affairs. So, 40 points, it's pretty easy to attain just so long as you explore your thoughts on the subject. As always, if you have any questions as you go forward this week, please be in contact. I'm happy to talk to you about it. Good luck and be in touch.